Welcome to this practice on the Yoga Sutras. Today we will go through the first 8 sutras as a review, and then we will practice Yoga Sutra 1.9, where we will learn about the disadvantage of fantasy or imagination, and also one useful way to use imagination or fantasy. Okay, let's go to class. So as you find your seat and you settle in, the present moment welcomes us no matter what our conditions were a few moments ago. The present moment still welcomes us each with equal regard. And so see if you can offer this same equal regard to yourself, to welcome yourself to arrive here in the present. And to arrive with whatever you've been carrying, and also whatever your longings or aspirations are. We say in yoga practice that the deepest aspiration or the deepest longing is for that sense of yoga or unity, to be reunited with the source of who we are or what we are. And that deepest longing is a worthwhile pursuit, whereas more temporary satisfactions end up being temporary satisfactions. The desire for that temporary satisfaction to return ends up creating what we call craving, which is raga in Sanskrit. And the wanting of that thing and not getting it is called dukkha, or suffering. So allow yourself to arrive not only with today's longings or aspirations, but with that deepest longing installed in your heart. And then please raise your hands to Anjali Mudra. We give our appreciation and our homage to Sri Patanjali for the texts on grammar for speech, the text on the mind, the yoga of the mind, and the text on the physical well-being of the body. So when our body is well enough, we can also study yoga more easily. When we understand grammar as well, we can study the yoga more easily. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaijakena Yopakarottam pravaramuninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Om Om So you may bow your head to your heart and release your hands. You're welcome to keep the eyes closed or inward. We'll chant the first several Yoga Sutras, and today we're going to be embarking on Yoga Sutra 1.9. We'll introduce that one. So beginning with yoga starts with here, now, we are going to have a discussion, an exploration. Atta yoga nusasanam Atta yoga nusasanam Atta yoga nusasanam Atta yoganusasanam. If we are going to discuss yoga, it is helpful to know what it is. How is it defined? Yoga is the experience of the reflectivity of the mind when it has ceased to be bothered by its fluctuations, or when those fluctuations have faded and we are in reflectivity. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. When those fluctuations have resolved or faded, or we cease to be tempted by them, then we rest in our true nature. Tadas drastu svarupe vastanam. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. At all other times, when vrittis are tempting for us and we are confused, we become identified with those vrittis, those mental fluctuations, we are then not experiencing yoga. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Vritti sarupyam itarata. Vritti sarupyam itarata. Fortunately, there are only 5 forms of vrittis, 5 pancham. There are only 5 kinds of fluctuations. Unfortunately, these fluctuations are either deeply colored, obscuring our access to understanding ourselves, or they can be translucent, granting us access to understanding ourselves. Vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta. Vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta. Vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta. Vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta. These 5 forms of fluctuations, they take on the qualities of clear perception, misperception, fantasy, deep sleep, and memory. So pramana, vipariyaya, vikalpa, nidra, and smriti. Pramana, vipariyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smritaya. Pramana, vipariyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smritaya. Pramana, vipadayaya vikalpa nidra smritaya pramana vipadayaya vikalpa nidra smritaya. So of these fluctuations, pramana, clear perception, is the one that is recommended. And we can experience clear perception either through the experience that is direct knowledge, or through the inference of others who have had the embodied experience of that knowledge and we can see it working in their lives, or through the texts or the teachings of yoga. Pratyakshanumana gama pramanani. Pratyakshanumana gama pramanani. Pratyakshanumana gama pramanani. Pratyakshanumana gama pramanani. Reflect for a moment on the nearest memory you have, the nearest smriti you have, of being in clear perception, or of seeing that clear representation of yoga in someone else's life and feeling maybe uplifted or inspired by that. And notice how that memory of pramana feels in your body. Pratyakshanumana gama pramanani. Pratyakshanumana gama pramanani. Notice where that is alive in your body, where you have access to it in the present moment, even though you're using memory to access that. We want to embed that sense of memory, of clear perception, pramana, because the next 4 kinds of knowings, the next 4 vrittis, are not recommended. And the next one is called misperception or misconception. In other words, not seeing things as according to reality, not being in reality. Vipadayaya means misperception, misconception, not discerning reality from unreality. Then we say mithya, which means false, dhyana, knowledge, atadrupa, not representing the form of, pratishtam, reality. Vipadayayo mithya yanam atadrupa pratishtam. Vipadayaya mithya jnanam attadrupa pratishtam. Vipadayayo mithya jnanam attadrupa pratishtam. Vipadayayo mithya jnanam attadrupa pratishtam. So momentarily reflect on the nearest memory you have of not being in alignment with reality, of misperceiving something or someone else, or misperceiving yourself. You could also substitute for that the nearest memory you have of not being seen clearly or of being misperceived. And notice that's a very different activation in your body. Notice what those sensations feel like. And as those get aroused, the sensations that come from perhaps a painful memory, which is called the apunya, the painful memory, it's also possible that adding on to that memory, we get more klishta, more deeply colored thoughts. So if we are being misperceived by someone else, we can end up adding that to a kind of repository of previous times where we felt misperceived. And as that repository builds up, it starts to be tempting to believe it, because it becomes more and more deeply colored, klishta. And that klishta leads to avidya, the first cause of suffering, the first of the kleshas. And that first of the kleshas, avidya, means not knowing our deepest nature. So if we have a repository of experiences of not feeling seen clearly, of being misperceived, and then we don't know how to perceive ourselves clearly, those painful quagmires inside, they become like neurological knots for us. And we are temporarily blocked from seeing clearly. So then we have to go back and we say, okay, yogas chitta vritti nirodha tada drastu svarupe vastanam. How can we remember that yoga is when the fluctuations of the mind settle down and we are resting in our true and clear nature? How will we know when we've been taken by klishta or when we're in aklishta? We turn to the body and you sense in your body the painful memory, the apunya, smriti, the painful memory, and yet you go into the deeper longing for uniting with your indwelling nature. Let the deeper longing guide you back home and start to see the painful memory, the painful repetitions of that memory for what it is, misperception. Viparyayo mitya dhyanam atta drupa pratishtam. Now working through that, of course, means resolving what we're holding in the body. It also means coming to a clear reconciliation with ourselves about any view we have in the side mirror or the rearview mirror, any work we have to do to actually clean up how we behaved when we were being misperceived, what happened as a result of misperception. We still have a duty to understand that and to do some reconciliation where it's necessary to do. The next of the vrittis may come as a result of feeling misperceived enough that we can fall subject to what's called Vikalpa, which means fantasy or imagination. So when we're fantasizing or we're caught up in imagination, we might even be fantasizing what other people are thinking of us, or we imagine what they think of us. We may also be caught in a kind of daydreaming habit, a pattern of imagining a different future or a different present moment. Sometimes on social media, we see a small clip of somebody's life and we imagine their whole life based on those 30 seconds or that 1 minute. So we don't want to have misperception lead to imagination and fantasy, nor do we want to be living in imagination or fantasy, as it tends to separate us from the present moment reality. It can also separate us from others, because what we imagine for them, we may be not imagining as a possibility for ourselves, so we might fall into comparison or envy or jealousy. Those are called the far enemies of the Brahma Vihara, called mudita, which means appreciation for the good welfare of others. But when we imagine their life is so amazing and we imagine that ours is not, we can come into comparison, jealousy, and envy. And that will deepen the coloring of our lenses as to how we see ourselves and how we see others. It may also block us from truly seeing another if we're living in our imagination of who they are. The same is true for ourselves. If we keep fantasizing that which we are or are not, we can end up with a deeply colored lens on who we are. And sometimes we daydream for a better life because we don't know how to get out of the circumstances that we're in right now. And there is a healthy side of imagining, which we call setting an intention, or having a horizon, a clear direction you want to move towards, and being able to imagine or visualize that possibility. So that's a healthy use of the concept of Vikalpa. Can I imagine myself moving to higher ground? Can I imagine myself really reconnecting and having the unity of yoga? Can I get there? But first, Patanjali is suggesting that we know these 5 vrittis and we don't succumb to them. For the time being, we're trying to establish ourselves, avastanam, in our true nature. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. So in this Yoga Sutra 1.9, we learn that we can sometimes hear knowledge that is devoid of anything aligned with reality, and that's summed up as fantasizing or imagining. So shabda means sound, so we're hearing dhyana, knowledge. Anupati, it's following an object, vastu. However, it is devoid, sunya. It has no place in reality. It's fictitious. It's in imagination. So this one we're going to do in call and response, each word. Shabda, 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 shabda. Dhyana, 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 dhyana. Anupati, 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 anupati. Vastu, 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 vastu. Shunyo, 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 shunyo. Vikalpa, 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 vikalpa. Now we'll put them together a little bit at a time. Shabda dhyana, shabda dhyana, shabda dhyana-nupati, shabda dhyana-nupati, shabda dhyana-nupati. Shabda jnana-nupati. Vastu shunyo, vastu shunyo, vastu shunyo, vastu shunyo. Vikalpa, 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 Vikalpa. Now we'll do the whole sutra. Shabda jnana-nupati vastu shunyo vikalpa. Shabda jnana-nupati vastu shunyo vikalpa. Shabda dhyana-nupati vastu shunyo vikalpa. Shabda dhyana-nupati vastu shunyo vikalpa. Shabda dhyana-nupati vastu shunyo vikalpa. Imagine when that resolves. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. You'll be resting in your indwelling nature. Raise your hands to your heart, please. So may this practice support us in recognizing our indwelling suchness, may we be less susceptible to the vrittis, which are deeply colored. May we lessen the coloring of the thoughts we can identify and experience ourselves resting in clear perception, less tempted by misperception or by fantasy or imagination, either about ourselves or about others. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah Hari Om. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Atta yoganusasanam yogas chitta vritti nirodha tada drastu svarupe vastanam vritti sarupyam itarattara vrittaya panchataya klishta klishta pramana vipadayaya vikalpa nidra smritaya pratyakshanumanagama pramanani vipadayayo mitya jnanam attadrupa pratishtam Shabda Jnananupati Vastu Shunyo Vikalpa. Thank you very much for sharing your practice with me and with the community. I hope this has been beneficial to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session. Please don't forget, if it was helpful for you, to click the like button. That's good feedback for me. And also, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do that as well. And I look forward to your comments in the comment section down below the video. Thank you. Namaste.